Moving on now, WikiLeaks editor Julian Assange has posted on Twitter that he's considering running in the UK's snap general election on May the 8th. He's been holed up in the Ecuadorian embassy, of course, in London for nearly 5 years now, though. Let's cross live to Laura Smith, who's in London. Laura, very interesting this, isn't it? Just even talking about it, he's an Australian, which means he could become an MP because Australia's a Commonwealth member state, of course, but is this a little bit tongue-in-cheek, or is this serious from him?
Well, we're all trying to establish whether it is, in fact, a joke, but Assange so far won't be drawn on that, and he seems to have looked into it quite carefully. I have to say that this is not a piece of election news that I thought that I would be standing here reporting this morning, and Theresa May's probably a bit surprised if she's heard about it. As you say, it began on Twitter. Assange set up a survey, and he asked his followers whether they thought that he should run. I can bring you the results of that poll now. 48% of his supporters and the respondents on Twitter thought that he should run for the UK Parliament. 31% said that they thought that he should mock them globally. I'm assuming that them is the UK government in this case. 16% though thought that he had bigger fish to fry. Then he appeared to get more serious. He looked into the legislation and he wrote a second tweet which linked to that legislation. He concluded from that that since he isn't sentenced for or indeed even charged with a crime, and of course, as you say, he's a Commonwealth citizen, then he is free to run in the general election. How would it work? Well, he'd have to choose a constituency. He could go for this one, which is a pretty safe Conservative seat at the moment. He doesn't have to choose a party, though. He could run as an independent. He'd have to pay a £500 fee for registering for election, and then he could just go for it, start campaigning if he wanted to. In fact, he wouldn't even have to go to Parliament if he was elected. MPs are not obliged to attend, although they would have to attend if they wanted to vote. As you say, he's pretty familiar with the locale around here. He's been here for nearly 5 years, and he hasn't left the constituency in all that time. There aren't many MPs who can say that. He was granted political asylum by Ecuador, and he has been inside the embassy behind me ever since. They recognised his fear that he would be extradited to the US on espionage charges. 5 years in June he will have been here. Sweden are still considering how to proceed with their rape case against him, but nothing appears to prohibit him from running. And in fact, one last thing, he has already run for election in Australia to the Senate, and he won 42,000 votes there. In fact, more votes than one man who did get a seat in the Senate. So Theresa May, watch this space.
Indeed, yeah. We saw stranger things over the last 12 months. President Trump, for one. Could we see an MP Assange? Laura Smith in London with that. Thank you very much.